everyone, in today's video I'll be showing you how I painted these mushrooms using gouache paints. Now I initially drew these mushrooms in my regular sketchbook with graphite pencil, and I decided that I wanted to add color to them, so I decided to paint them in my watercolor sketchbook using gouache paints. I will list the supplies that I'm using in the description below. So I've started off with just an outline of the sketches of the mushrooms with a water-soluble graphite pencil. The reason for using a water-soluble graphite pencil instead of using a regular graphite pencil is that the water-soluble pencil does not have any harsh lines once I start adding the paint. So I will not see on the lighter areas of graphite lines showing through once the painting is I commence with the painting. With a regular graphite pencil, you're going to see a lot of the lines showing through when you start adding the paint. Now the good thing with gouache is that gouache is similar to watercolors, so you can use it. The more water you add, the more of wash it forms or creates like watercolors, and the more pigment you use and less water you use, the darker you can get and the more opaque the color will be. But the more water, it will be more translucent. So what I'm going through here now is that I'm just going layer by layer. I started off with the top of the mushroom, and then I used a very light color or light wash on the underside, and I just started adding some of the details. In that spot I didn't like how it looks, so I just went over with a wet brush, and then I dabbed it with a paper towel to just lift some of that color up, and then I redrew it or repainted it. Now with this mushroom, these mushrooms are more on the red and orange side with little white specks on them, so I had to add some additional colors to my palette. And then now I'm just going layering in the colors. I'm trying to work wet in wet with very not too much of water as well, but I want to work wet in wet so that I get a smooth transition between the colors as it goes from one or fades from one color into the next. I'm also using a light wash with the gouache just to create a tint of color for the underside of the mushroom and the stem. And then I'm going in with some darker colors to create a bit of darker details onto the mushroom. So you can see some areas, if you go too dark, or if you've got a color in that you don't like, or you don't think it's the correct color like I've done there, all you got to do is just wet your paintbrush, wet the area, and then just use the paintbrush to lift up some of those colors in the wet area. Let it dry a bit, and then come through with the correct color that you want. Don't try to work in the area that you wet, because if you try to put the correct color, it's going to just smear and smudge over the entire wet area and spread in the wet area, and then you may not want to achieve that. So let it dry and then apply the or let it dry enough to apply before you apply the correct color. So there I'm just adding some white gouache onto the top of the mushrooms for those little white specks. That's a good thing about gouache, is that you can use the lighter colors on the darker colors, and it does you are able to do that with gouache, because gouache is quite opaque if you use more pigment and less water. So now I'm just coming through and using the same colors for these mushrooms as well. These are all the same kind of mushrooms like the previous one that I did. So there's lots of reds and oranges. I'm basically using the same steps that I used in the previous one, applying light layers, working from light to dark for these particular mushrooms, not the first one. The first one was very dark colors, but in this case I wanted to start off with the lighter areas because I want to retain some of those light areas as I'm blending in the darker colors. So now you can see I'm going through with the darker colors and adding more details. And if I don't like a color, I just use a wet brush and I soak up wipe it off, and then I soak up the excess with the brush, and it lifts some of that color off. Once again, adding a bit of wash of color for the stems. Now I'm not looking at every single spot on the mushroom in the reference photo, because I'm just creating an illustration using the gouache, so I'm not making it hyper realistic. So I'm just getting a general idea of where the shadows are, or where the highlight areas are, where the colors are blending from one to the other, just to get that look of the mushroom. But this is more of an illustration than an actual detailed realistic painting. So the same with this mushroom. This mushroom is turned in like upside down, or the under part is lifted up. So you're seeing a lot of the underside of it. So it's going to have a lot of the details to the underside. I'm adding a lot of shadows. And also we're adding some of those detailed little lines and a little bit of grass, just to not have the mushrooms in mid-air, give them a little bit of ground on which they are standing on, and then coming through with the white for the little specks on the top. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to like and share. Feel free to comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Till the next one. Bye.